Welcome back to Broncos and Parts Garage. My name's Chris. If you're new to the channel, please stick around and you'll see additional links for content we've already created and uploaded. I've gotten a lot of requests for a tailgate video, so this is going to be my first take at it. We'll call this part one. It's already been taken out of the truck, obviously. I'll do a breakaway video and show you what tools you need to get the hinges off and what you need to do to disconnect the harness. As you can see here, the only wire that I had to cut out of here was the ground wire because it's heavily oxidized on the inside of your driver's side taillight housing. But when we break away, you'll see that little snippet of a video. Anyway, I've seen a lot of videos online. Guys snap their fingers and stuff's done. I'm gonna get in here, I'm gonna get dirty. We're gonna disassemble it, take it out, clean all the parts. We'll probably replace the motor if it needs replacing, or at the very least, take it apart so you guys can see the little balls on the inside that get turned into cottage cheese, and that's why these motors go bad. So let's get started. For those of you who plan on removing the tailgate completely, you'll need a few extra tools. You'll need a T50 Torx bit to remove the cable catch on the side. You'll need a 14mm socket or a 14mm wrench to remove these 3 hinge bolts. You can also remove the hinge bolts from the inside of your rear taillight assembly, which has been removed, and that takes 4 number 2 Phillips screws to get out. There's 1, 2, 3 hinge bolts right here. Be careful with these. If you loosen those nuts too hard or use an impact, you may take them off the studs. You want to remove the bolt and the stud if possible. Next thing you'll do is remove your harness. You'll disconnect this strap right here holding the harness in place. Your harness comes out of your tailgate, through the body, into your taillight assembly. You'll want to remove this one ground cable, and more than likely this ground right here will be rusted out completely, so you'll want to cut that. You'll chase this harness down underneath the truck. See if I can get down here. You'll chase it down underneath, and you'll follow that harness over, tugging on your tailgate harness, and then you'll unplug it just about dead center in the rear of the bumper. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want this rust in my eyes and in my ears and hair and face, but it's simple. Just make sure you pull on the correct harness and follow it through, unplug it or cut it free if you're parting out the truck, and then just pull the plug back and snake everything back out through the taillight hole. I hope this helps. First thing we'll want to do is remove your inspection plate. We'll set this aside. First thing we're going to do is locate the harness underneath. We're going to use one of these pry tools. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to pick up one of these tools. We're going to pry all these pins loose, get the harness loose. That way we'll be able to get the motor harness, disconnect it, put some jumper wires on it, jog the motor forward a little bit. That way we could disconnect the glass and slide the glass out before we go any further. So right now, let's free up the harness from the body of the tailgate assembly. I've got access to the tailgate motor. You'll always know the motor wires because they will be the red and yellow wires. It looks like there's some butt connectors on this harness, so somebody's been in here before. Somebody's probably replaced this motor already, but we still can't get it up. And if this tailgate was installed in your truck, you'd obviously be working on a vertical position, this being the bottom. So you just do the same thing, but in a vertical position. So we've got the harness right here. We can disconnect the harness right here. The female plug will go to the motor. The male plug is obviously the power source for the motor, and it'll go this way, connecting to the harness through the tailgate and out underneath the truck. Now, to power up the glass, what I use is my Milwaukee battery. It's 18 volts. I've never done any damage to the motors, and usually you're replacing them anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Rather than cut 2 wires and jam them in there, I have a plug off of an older tailgate. So I'll use this as my jump harness, we'll call it. So we'll twist the positive and negative, and we'll just touch these to the terminal on the battery. And the motor should jog open or closed. Well, that glass started to come up, but she's on an angle. So that means one of these are stuck. There we go. So let's give it another hit with the power source, and we should be able to get the glass up.
Holy smokes, this is giving me a lot of trouble. Try one more time.
So this is a textbook example of what goes wrong with these tailgates. The slide on this side is not sliding. That's why the glass is coming up cockeyed. I'm going to walk around there and see if I can pull that side out. There we go. Now that we've got the glass jogged up a few inches in the body of the tailgate, it exposed these two 11mm nuts. Those are actually holding the glass to the track, and then there's that white plastic slide that's in the track on the other side. Those usually get very dirty, rusty, and grimy, and that's why the glass tends to go up and down on an angle. On this side, there's two 11mm nuts. They're underneath this panel, so we'll have to use a wrench or a gear wrench type wrench to get in there and loosen those up and take them off. So let me get this back on the tripod, and you can watch me take the glass out. Little overkill, but it does the job. Let's get the other side out. Okay. Now we've got the glass disconnected from the tracks. You've heard them fall down. These are the tracks I'm talking about. Someone put crazy foam on the end of this one. But this right here should be shiny. This shouldn't be tore up. This is when the glass goes up and down, it slides back and forth in here. And you can see this is how these get. All these parts are replaceable. You can buy these. You can buy these tracks. I'm not going to need to buy these because I'm going to clean this and polish it and get all that rust off. Probably throw it in my sandblaster. But you'll definitely need to buy the new plastic slides. But this is the #1 reason why your glass would hang up and go up or down on an angle. So we'll set these aside. After you've removed all these push pins holding the harness in place, it's just a matter of squeezing the bottom and top of this clip, and it'll slide right off. We'll put the harness up to the side. Let's pull the glass out. So here's where we're at so far. We've got the glass out. We've got our harness tucked to the side. We're going to remove the rest of these 11mm bolts. There's one here. There's one here. There's one here. And there is one right about here. We're going to have to jog the glass again. That's why there's a hole in this regulator. We'll jog that down. It'll expose the hole. Then we'll be able to gently slide the regulator up and out with the motor in one piece. Okay, now we need to jog this motor again to expose this hole to get the fourth 11mm bolt out. Make it a lot easier to do. So we're going to jog this a little bit more. Now you can see I've exposed that hole. So get that out. Now the regulator should come right out. But in this instance, it won't because the regulator arms are down. So we'll have to hook the motor up one last time, bring these arms out so they're almost parallel with the opening of the tailgate, and once they're parallel, we can lift it right out. About right there. So now it's just a matter of grabbing it. And you've got your regulator and you've got your motor out. I watched a couple of the videos where people talk about the tension held in the spring. There is tension in the spring, but it doesn't get released until you remove the motor. So you don't have to worry about getting your finger or hands chopped off. And again, I've showed you step by step, so you don't have to worry about that. It's not one of those snap your finger videos where everything's magically done. Besides the motor going bad, the number one problem, I think, on these tailgates are the slides, obviously. You have a plastic slide here. You have the one that fell off over here. Those are supposed to slide back and forth in these tracks when this window articulates up and down. That's not going to happen with this. That's why this side was hanging up. That's why this motor was performing poorly. I may or may not replace this motor. It depends. I'm going to order one. I'm going to order the new slides right here. And I'm going to put these in my sandblaster and clean these up and get them polished and lubed up and make sure they're salvageable. If not, we'll order new ones, and then we'll get this tailgate rebuilt. Inside the tailgate, though, you'll find this reinforcement bracket. It's a black bracket. Leave it alone. I've never seen these rust out. They're actually, looks like it was powder coated or painted. I've never seen a rusty one. So I leave it right where it was, right in place so I don't lose it. The next step, we're going to go in here and I'm going to remove these, I believe they're 10 millimeter bolt heads. I'm going to remove all these 10 millimeter bolt heads and we're going to drop off the silver panel on the outside. So let's get started on that. And you'll want to lift up when you unscrew these because they're just kind of a like a press-on El Cheapo nut. So let me get these off. All right. Those we're gonna have to get from the inside. So let me set this aside. Now we're going to remove the outer bolts that hold the tailgate panel on. We've got the tailgate panel off. This one has been hacked up. Someone tried to paint over it. It's split. It's got a nice Ford emblem on it, but everything else is pretty hacked up. So this will go to scrap. What we will do is probably pull these tabs on the inside because these are what go bad or rot or break. So I'll slide all these off and probably put these for sale. If you need them, hit me up. I do have more of these panels for sale. I sell them for $75. They all need a little bit of polishing, but none of them should have any big dents or dents for that matter. They're just hard to ship. The next thing we're going to do is remove the lock assembly. The switch assembly is held on with this spring clip. That's what holds it tight to the body of the tailgate. Right here, there's a spring clip. There's one end of it, and there's another end right here. That holds the lock cylinder in place. I've already removed the bushing on top here that is holding the switch arm in place. That's why that's loose. So we're going to pull this out, and then we're going to pull that, and we're going to pull that spring clip. We're actually going to push it back. That'll release the lock cylinder and separate it from the switch. I'm going to set the camera down, but again, I'm going to grab this with some pliers. I'm going to pull this straight back. Then I'm going to push this wire clip off. And I hate doing it without showing you. I'll try right now, but again, I don't want to be one of those guys that just snap their fingers and stuff's finished. So, there we go. Okay, that came out pretty easy. Oh, okay. So the next thing we got to do is get this clip off right here. So I'm going to grab it with this hook tool I have right here. And again, I'll put links in the description below for all these kind of oddball tools. I got the clip out. So I've already loosened the switch mechanism arm up. So we'll pull that back. And we'll get the washer out. So now the lock's already fallen to the ground. This is the switch. And as you can see, she's plugged in right here. Now, I don't cut these loose. I sell the switch with the harness. So let me get this pulled out. Okay, this right here is the locking mechanism that you'd see on the outside of your tailgate behind the silver panel. This dropped out as soon as I removed that wire clip. So key in, key out, turn. And again, I usually sell these with the harness and the key switch. I don't like to separate them, so hit me up if you need one. The next thing we're going to do is remove the safety switch harness that connects to your latch. That indicates when the tailgate is completely closed, and that allows your glass to move up and down. A lot of people disconnect that and wire it passive so it doesn't work. That way it doesn't wear out, especially when the latches start wearing out. But it's right here. All we're going to do is squeeze this right here. Can't really see it, but we're going to squeeze it, wiggle a little bit, and pull it out, and that's the plug. Let me pull it down so you can see. Again, this is all done on the driver's side of the tailgate. So that's what the plug looks like. That's been disconnected now. So everything's been disconnected under here. Now it's just a matter of using your pry tool, pulling all these Christmas trees out, and then pulling the harness through the tailgate. You'll have to pull it out so it comes out this way out of the hole in the tailgate. So I'm going to do that right now. What I'm going to do now is start pushing this harness through the inside of the tailgate. I've got to get this grommet out of the way first. It's pretty dry, so it's going to give me some problems. We'll use one of these pry tools to help it along. Kind of just stuff it in there. One of my favorite tools. So now we've got the grommet on the inside of the tailgate, so it's ready to be pulled through. We just got to disconnect more of the Christmas tree plugs that are holding the harness in certain places. And what I'm doing now is pulling the harness around one of the inside window tracks. So you just gotta keep working at it. Tons of little catches and sharp edges of metal to watch out for when you're pulling that harness around until you get it completely out. And then pull your harness through gently. You got another grommet right here. I don't know if you can see that, but that was the one that was stuck in the body going into the taillight assembly. So we'll stuff that in there. Get it around the track. Pull that through. And you got your other plugs. These are the plugs that were underneath your, about the center of your bumper. You pull that out. And you've got your entire harness out. You've got your switch out. The switch arm and all the washers are obviously still in the tailgate right here. And we'll pop this back together. This is fairly simple. I didn't realize a lot of what I was doing was off camera. I was simply taking all these wires right here and making sure they weren't wrapped around the inside slide track for the window. There's a track in here that you can't see. It's what the window rides in and out of. It's not the lifting track. It's more of a vertical track that guides the window up into your top. So when I remove this, I untangled this, and then I pull the harness from the outside to the inside and then back out of the center. Now, I've got the switch assembly right here. We've disconnected the safety switch. And again, I would simply cut this and wire these two together. That way you don't have to worry about that safety switch. Email me. My email's in the description if you don't understand what I'm talking about. The lock mechanism is fairly simple. This sits on the lock mechanism. This goes up inside the switch. Let me make sure I got that the right way. This goes up in the switch, and when you turn it, you can see that move. Obviously, there's the switch arm, and I don't know if I can find it now. You've got this spring clip. This is what we disconnected with the hook tool. This will go here, and this will cap. Oh, let me make sure I get that installed right. This will capture the lock mechanism to the switch, so now it's not going to drop back out. And the only thing I'm missing right now, and I must have misplaced it, was the arm that mounts on here that presses these two buttons right here and right here to raise and lower the glass. The harness gets sold as one solid piece. This one's seen better days, but it's still functional. This would need to be cleaned up. This was one of the rear defrost plugs. I don't have the other plug, but I do have nicer harnesses for sale. But that gives you an idea, everybody. We've got the harness and switch out in one piece. It was already broken in this one spot. The only wire we cut was the ground wire inside your taillight housing assembly, because those are always corroded and I can't get them out. We've removed the regulator and got it out. We're going to clean up the slides. We're going to clean up the guides, and then we're going to get this all put back together in the next video. Thanks for watching.